Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 827, Richard's here, and we've got a lot to fit in. We've got new builds of Windows 11, we've got Android apps hitting the dev channel, we're talking about that. We've got some Surface Duo 2 news and lots more, so let's get straight to Richard. Richard, good evening.
Good evening.
We're here now as my Surface earbuds no longer work when I use a separate microphone with Microsoft Teams.
Quality product.
It's really weird because I've done that configuration for what, a year and a half or something like that, and it's just stopped working. So I don't know why. And in the little, if you go to the control panel, you can see the volumes going through the Surface earbuds. But yeah, it's no longer working. There've been no updates to the earbuds that I know of. This machine's on the beta channel, so it's had no major updates either. So fingers pointed well and truly at Microsoft Teams. So I'm on wired earbuds, which is, I don't mind, but it just seems weird.
And I'm talking to you through a very cheap and nasty webcam microphone, so all echoes are entirely my fault.
Okay, well, it's sounding good from this end anyway. So yeah, so welcome to the show. Now it was going to be a fairly quiet week, but you've just given me some information that's something we talked about last week that's just happening actually. So tell me about Windows 11 SE and Surface Laptop SE.
Yay! Well, yes, yeah. I mean, obviously we've got some Windows Insider stuff as well, but this is the education event that kicked off this week, which I think last week we were speculating what there might be here, and sure enough, they have actually launched a cheapo Surface laptop. When I say cheapo, inexpensive Chromebook competitor. So it's yeah, it's an interesting looking device. I mean, it looks hideous, if I'm honest. I'm slightly concerned they've slapped the Surface brand on it because it is very much built down to a price.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the device itself. The kind of what's it called? The Surface Laptop SE. I think I'm not quite sure what SE stands for. Student edition maybe, or I don't know.
Special edition.
Silly equipment. I'm not quite sure what the SE stands for. Basically, it's an 11.6 inch screen laptop, and they really have built this thing down to a price. So the price is always the key thing, which is it starts at £229 or about $250, and for that money you get you ready for this? A 1366 pixel by 768 pixel screen. They still make them. That's a 16:9 aspect ratio, so it isn't the nice cuddly 3:2 you get on the Surfaces. It's that 16:9 which you get everywhere else. You get a mighty Intel Celeron processor, could be a 4020 or a 4120, one of those two. You could have 4 gigs of RAM, which I'm guessing is what the £229 one is going to come with, or 8 gigs of RAM. Oh, well, yeah, it gets better. Storage is 64 gig or 128 gig eMMC. Oh. Yeah. This is an atrocious bit of hardware. There's no two ways around it, but it is not aimed at you or me. It's aimed at students, and it's aimed at the Chromebook marketplace. Fair and square, they're aiming for Chromebooks here. And it comes with a Windows 11 SE, which is obviously a very much a lockdown version of Windows 11. But yeah, it hasn't even got a touchscreen, I don't think. It's just a straightforward, very, very inexpensive multi-spec laptop. I think they say, yeah, you can use it offline or online, but I think that storage type is going to be entertaining to run offline, that's for sure. I mean, the performance, I think, maybe at a par with us running Windows 11 on our Raspberry Pis.
Yeah, I mean, I am running Windows 11 on my original Surface Go, but that's way better spec than that one.
Yeah, I would say it's well, yeah, exactly. This is really, really quality spec stuff. So you've got a USB-A, USB-C, barrel type DC connector, and a headphone mic jack, which is handy. One thing you don't
you need that.
Yeah, one thing you don't appear to have, and I may have missed this, so I apologise if it's here. I can't find any indication of how water resistant it is, because one thing, if it's going for students, the student marketplace, it needs to be fluent resistant. I mean, I know, for example, make big things about how water can pour through the keyboard and the machine will still work. I can't see any write-up about that here. So hopefully I've missed it and they've not missed out that, because I think if you're marketing a laptop aimed at students or the classroom, it really needs to be able to take having a glass of water thrown over it.
Yeah. As you said, those specs sound horrendous, but then you're right. It's not aimed at those.
It's not. I mean, they say 16 hours of battery life as well, which realistically that's going to probably be more like 8 hours. I think once you start doing stuff with it, which again is fine for school day. I think that sounds fine. You'll be able to charge it up overnight and stick on a desk, and it should be fine. I mean, the obvious comparison to make is obviously the Chromebooks. There are Chromebooks out there that are priced similarly. Some people might try and compare it to an iPad, but I think you'd be very hard pressed to get an iPad and a keyboard for anywhere near that price. Yeah. So I'm not sure the iPad's a really realistic comparison. Plus, I'm not entirely sure how successful the iPad's been in classrooms anyway, compared to say Chromebooks, particularly in the US.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they're aiming for. The US market, where they're quite concerned. I think that students are coming up through the ranks and not using Microsoft software in the classroom. They're using Chromebooks.
Yeah.
That's what they're aiming at. The problem is, I just don't think Windows 11 is going to be a particularly nice experience on this machine.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's Windows 11. I've run it. Well, you're joking, but it's not that far apart from a Raspberry Pi 400, probably, like you said. And yeah, I've run it on my which is the Atom-powered Yoga book, the original Lenovo Yoga book. It's sluggish on there, but then Windows 10 was fairly sluggish, and I know this is Windows 11 or SE, but I'm sure it's going to be just the same basic experience. Maybe
it is. I mean, yeah. I mean, basically SE. I think SE. It's not quite like S, in that it's get up towards education. So I don't think it's got a store, but I think you can have things like Zoom and Chrome and what have you on it as well. But the key thing is, of course, it's locked down, and the thinking is school IT admins will manage it via things like Intune for education will be used to manage these things. Whereas, of course, with Windows 10s, they made a big thing about USB sticks, didn't they? Which was obviously insane. I watched the Windows 10s and I thought, they've never been in the classroom in their lives. I mean, you're expecting teachers to go around with USB sticks and nuke every laptop every time. That's just never going to happen. But this time they're going for Intune. So obviously they're aiming at quite tech savvy schools. But yeah, my worry here is they have slapped the Surface brand on that, which has historically been a very higher end brand, and now it's on something which is a £229 laptop. So it's also, I think, an indicator that the Surface Laptop Go clearly didn't work, because that was, I think, too expensive for students.
Yeah, that's actually the Laptop Go is actually a nice device for consumers, but yeah, not for students. So
it's way too expensive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but so I mean, actually, laptop. If I was thinking of if I got my wife a new laptop or something, because she's got Surface Pro 4, I think the Laptop Go would actually be fine for her. But I wouldn't bother with this, But that's not what it's aimed for.
It will exactly no. And as I say, I mean, I think I'd find that screen quite hard on the eyes as well. But I mean, the plan is these things should start to hit the channel towards the end of this year, and sort of move on into 2022. And I guess we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think I didn't get when they're launching it in the UK and Europe. I mean, it's on the site now with pricing. So
yeah, it says coming early 2022.
Okay, because there's pricing on the site now. Hence, it's £229. Yeah, so that I think is the big thing. It's basically it's a lockdown version of the Windows 11 we all know and love, aimed at education. So lockdown in a different way to Windows 10s, and this device, the Windows, the Surface Laptop SE. That I think is the big news. So I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking. I was looking on here. I was thinking, I might pre-order one then, just to see if it really is that bad. And
you should do that. Yeah, go for it.
But I mean, actually, you can't.
No, it's. I think you need to know. It's all through education. So I'm sure there's ways and means. But I don't know who would actually want one of these machines apart from sticking them in the classroom in because it's just such it will be a horrible experience as a laptop.
Yeah.
But as we keep saying, we're not the market for this. It's aimed at sticking these things in classrooms for students to use, as opposed to the enthusiasts who will go, oh, DPI is terrible. So
yeah.
Don't really care about that. Does Word work? Yes, then we're fine. So.
And I'm sure there'll be the tech reviewers online on YouTube and other places all say how rubbish these devices are, but then they're not for them either. And I remember reviewing I've reviewed a few Chromebooks, and the expensive ones were actually quite nice, apart from they didn't do anything apart from Chrome, but the cheap ones weren't brilliant. And I think I can't remember the brand. It was probably one of the Acer, and one of those. The real budget ones were like 200 quid ones, and they felt like 200 quid devices, to be honest. Yeah. But then, like exactly as you said, they're not designed for tech bloggers who are reviewing M1 MacBook Pros at the same time as it's not a competitor to that, or it's not a Surface laptop studio competitor. It's a very budget device for a very niche audience. So it shows you. I guess this is perhaps more of an indication of the threat from Chrome, like you mentioned further down the line, not necessarily in schools. They're not looking to probably, to make all the profit in schools off these devices, but you've got to be there in the early days of education for it to, and you don't want to be a dinosaur operating system where new people come into the job market that their only experience has been with Chromebooks, and they come across this Windows thing, and so I think it makes sense. It's a brave decision in some respects, so isn't it? I'm surprised that they stuck the Surface brand on it and just didn't call it the Microsoft Laptop SE or something, because Microsoft have got loads of hardware products that aren't branded Surface.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a gamble with the Surface brand. Also, I mean, it is doing some interesting things that I wonder if we will see filter through the rest of the Surface range. I mean, obviously, Microsoft's got some partners who'll be building their own versions of this sort of platform, and they may make them more rugged. Because I mean, looking at it, you think that's not going to last 5 minutes in the classroom, because it's chunky, yes, but I don't think it'll stand a drop. But interesting that they have said things like you'll be able to change out the display, the battery, the keyboard, the motherboard on site. So your IT person, the school, the screwdriver, in theory, could change stuff out, which that's interesting. But particularly in regards to how these things are going to be hammered and damaged over time, because kids are kids. That's what kids do. They'll bash the keyboard, they'll drop them, they'll throw things at them. But if they can be fixed actually on site, that's quite interesting. And I wonder if that's going to find its way into Microsoft's other wares, because I know things like they've made the hard disk changeable on some of their machines now. So I wonder if we're going to see more repairability, which I think would be a great thing, actually.
Yeah, that's definitely sustainability is a big thing that I think we're going to see. It used to be there, and we lost all that, didn't we? And now it's coming back around. So maybe this is the start of something for the future on that.
Although, of course, we can't mention sustainability of Microsoft, because obviously they're very keen on their zero carbon emissions and things, and their data centers, what have you, without mentioning the fact that they have, at a stroke, consigned hundreds of millions of laptops and PCs to the landfill, thanks to Windows 11 hardware compatibility requirement. I mean, I always find that a bit difficult when someone like Brad Smith stands up and starts saying, "Oh yes, we're going to go zero carbon here, and they're going to be recyclable there." You think, yeah, I know, but for no really good reason, you simply decided that all these machines that are more than about 2 or 3 years old are now obsolete in one go. And I've always found that I find that a bit difficult to deal with.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, interesting devices. I'd love to try one.
Well, Ian, you should buy one.
I don't think that. I'm not sure I'll be editing videos on the podcast videos on it, or anything else. But I certainly would like to try it.
And could like using Windows 11 and an Office offline with OneDrive storage 64 gigs of eMMC disk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 64 gigs. I mean, yeah. Even when I bought the Surface Go, I made sure I went for I didn't go for that 64 gig EMC one because I knew that would be a problem. In fact, I probably got remember those little Windows 8 tablets that I had? In fact, I've still got down here somewhere.
I've got a link set up. I've got a link set up on some still.
Yeah, and I've got a Toshiba one as well, and they've got 64 gig EMC, and I always struggled to get anything on them because they ran out of storage straight away. So, yeah. But then again, like you said, these are going to be used, wiped, then perhaps used again, and so on. So, you mentioned about Windows 11 SE. So, so this has got. So there's no. So this isn't. Something that you will be able to install yourself then, is it? This is specifically for that education market.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they'll make it available or what, but it looks like it pretty much stock Windows 11 except kind of optimized for this particular marketplace. So I believe things like this, things like the store and things have gone. It's purely a simplified interface. And it's designed to fire up things like Office apps. It's designed, all the things are integrated, and you can get third-party apps on it as well because Zoom is very common now, and Chrome is always required. And of course, it's hooked up with Autopilot and Intune as well, in Intune for Education. So I don't think it's like Windows 10s. But again, I don't think you'll be able to get hold of it particularly easily. I mean, I don't know. I mean, would it appear on things like MSDN?
Yeah, for developers to test it, maybe. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's going to be there.
It mentions things and start full screen app launch. Well, I suppose at 720p.
It's like, I've got icons that are bigger than that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's always nice to see, but I something new. And I guess this is the reason why this isn't like S is because S was the kind of opposite, wasn't it? That was locked down to the store. Yeah. And this doesn't have a store, and it's just go and install it yourself. I wonder if you can get, like the Winget type stuff and all that. I imagine people will get. I mean, they probably got Android apps working on this before after a few weeks. It'll be the whole thing, won't it? You'll be registry keys to change desktop mode and everything.
I mean, I'll be amazed if the core itself isn't Windows 11 or Windows 11. We just some stuff turned off. It's going to be so I'm sure Android apps, which would be a very intriguing use because then you'd be able to fire up things like your Chromebook apps and things. Although I'm not sure how well ARM emulation would work on a set-top. Suspect not particularly good, but I've been wrong before. Maybe it's perhaps best to think that these particular machines to sort of use them for what they're designed for. And if you need more than Windows 11 SE, then perhaps just go for Windows 11. It's funny though. Well. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's a very interesting thing to do. I think it's high risk sticking the Surface brand on it. That's definitely risky. I wish them luck because I can see that it is clearly an attempt to get in with schools. Have kids coming through schools used to using Microsoft tech. And I think they perhaps realised that in the last 5-10 years or so, that's kind of faded away.
Yeah, and again, I imagine we'll get when Gary's back next week. We can talk to him about it. But I guess you could get Visual Studio Code working on there, even just if it's the web version.
It would be in a browser, definitely.
Yeah,
browser. Yeah.
It just means that you're not forced to go through the Microsoft through Google's operating system and Google accounts and all that kind of thing. They can control the accounts. So if you're using it for computer education, then it's actually quite a good device for that. It's an application that would or an operating system that's used in the real world, effectively once you get into standard businesses.
Yes, I mean, I guess the hope is that once children or students graduate Windows 11 will perhaps have made its way into the workplace, because obviously if you spend your time using Windows 11 and then you head into the office and find Windows 10 is always all the rage, that could be a problem.
Just funny. As a slight aside, I've just logged on to I'm on the Microsoft Store, I should show, and I saw it said saving on Surface Pro 8, and I think, oh, that's it, Surface Pro 8, £4. Saving of £4. I don't think that's going to entice me somehow.
There are some fairly big savings though. I think on the Pro X range there's some fairly chunky savings that I haven't seen.
Well, there you go. So so there you go. Surface Pro 8, you get £4 off if you buy it now. Well, that I was at the point where I'm not spending £999, but £995, no problem. Oh, I love those type deals. Yeah, you're right though. There is some deals on other ones, but yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to. I'd love to get hold of one just to test it, but I don't think it's going to be something that you would necessarily buy from the Microsoft Store, is it? Because it's an education market, and you go through an education reseller. Yeah,
I mean, it's something that schools are going to have, because you also wouldn't want to have one at home either, because while it might be okay to do Word and some basic surfing, I mean that sort of machine won't be anywhere sufficient to do some of the games that kids like playing. I presume it would be okay to do YouTube and stuff.
Yeah, it probably will. And I suppose the reason why Microsoft will put the Surface brand on it is to show that just because it's a budget device with budget specs, it does the job well, and it's not cheap and nasty. And there's going to be a device that's going to in a school for sort of 3 months and have to be thrown away because it's just not up to the job. Maybe the point of this perhaps is to show that these low cost budget devices can be used in schools, and this is the best example of one. And perhaps in that way it makes some sense using the Surface brand, because that Surface brand is the best example of a PC in its category, and maybe this is the best example of a 220 quid one.
Yeah, I guess so. Just looking at those specs again, oh dear. I mean, I always advise people never to buy sort of the very cheapest laptops, because you can always end up regretting it, and it's like, oh, this is really, really poorly spec, some of it is. I mean, anyway, we shouldn't go on about it, as I keep saying, not aimed at us. So yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's interesting to see. I like the idea of it, but yeah, one of those things. It's going to be. It's like I say, it's not for us. So, but it is good to see Microsoft working on something else.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the. Still thinking about what my next device would be: the Surface Pro 8 or the Surface Laptop Studio.
You've just bought a Duo 2. You can't have any more devices.
Well, no, this is the problem. Yes, I can't buy anything else. And this laptop, as I said the other week, the laptop that I'm on, the Surface Laptop 2, is actually working really well. So yeah, I can't complain about that. But yes, I am enjoying the Duo 2. Obviously another couple of weeks with it now, and I no longer have to carry two devices around with me, which is brilliant. The camera on it is brilliant, actually. I really like the camera, especially with the way that you get the previews as you're taking the shots on the other screen. So it's great for that, and I've not really any software issues with it. So it's been working really well. I do like the little notification bar when it's on my desk at work. I quite often get Teams notifications and don't notice because I'm looking at one of the screens, but this flashes up with the purple thing there and a little Teams indicator, so I actually see that quite easily. So that bit was working really well on me. So I did a couple of videos actually about the Duo, so I finally got around to doing one comparing the camera as well. So I did some indoor shots, some outdoor shots, some video, some low light ones as well. So to compare the Note 20, the Duo and the Duo 2. So anyone can take a look at that. So I've put those on our YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Now we did get some new builds, but I think we were just talking about the new builds actually as we recorded last week, so on Wednesday. So I think we did actually mention the changes to the build last week. 2.2 494 on last week's show. I got it installed, and as we suspected, none of the new features I got on my device because they were A/B testing.
But did you mention? Obviously, we were not aware of the certificate gate that was about to strike.
No, yeah. So we'll talk about that in a sec. So yeah, so talk about that build. Yeah, I didn't get the A/B features, so I didn't get the to test the microphone or anything else. But there was this other issue that happened last week. It didn't seem to affect me, but it did affect various insiders, I think. So what was this? This is where some of the default apps or the built-in apps didn't work anymore.
Yeah. But it wasn't just insiders; it was like production code as well.
Yeah.
So for some users, there was a certification error, an expired certificate. It expired, I think, on the 31st of October, and somehow they managed to build some of the inbox apps against this cert, which meant I think it was stuff like the snipping tool stopped working, touch keyboard stopped working, and most seriously for the 3 users that actually use it still, the start menu and settings app stopped working in S mode.
Oh, right.
Which is, luckily it was S mode only because nobody noticed.
Yeah.
I mean, do we know how many people use S mode? I mean, I've always wondered this: how many people are actually using Windows 10 S or Windows 11 S mode? It's got to be single digit, surely.
Well, I think there's a couple of devices. I think the Surface Go ships in S mode. Mine did. I still think the new ones do as well. And I lasted about a week before I wanted to open a command prompt. And I thought, where's the command prompt? And then I realised the limitation. So I was like, oh, I'll switch it off. And you don't even have to reboot; you just switch it off. So yeah, it's not a lot of hurdles to switch it off, to be honest. So yeah, I think as soon as even if your non-techie person gets a Surface Go and wants to install Chrome, then you have to switch it off, don't you? So yeah. Yeah, I don't think there'll be many people using it, to be honest. Yeah, so they did issue a patch, didn't they? But has that patch actually gone out to regular Windows now? Because I saw it was released to Windows Insiders.
Yeah, so I think the patch has gone out it can be downloaded by regular Windows people, and I think with the Insiders they've released a patch that does a bit more stuff, because I think even the patch that they released to regular Windows didn't fix stuff like the start menu for S mode users or snipping tool, which I think they have now fixed for Insiders. So I think that's heading out, if not now, imminently towards regular Windows. So it should all be fixed, but it's just a bit embarrassing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a bit of an easy. It's a bit of a basic mistake, isn't it? That one, a certificate error. Although has happened to us all, I would say.
Yeah, it has, but not when you're at a global corporation.
Yeah,
pumping this code out onto tens of millions of PCs. It's perhaps, I'm not saying they've got a quality problem, but they've got a real bad quality problem inside Microsoft. But what I can't work out is, I mean, surely this must have been caught by the Insiders at some point, because the Insider program is normally pretty good at finding this stuff.
The certificate didn't expire till the 31st.
Of course, yes, that was it. Yeah, so no one noticed until then.
Yeah.
I shouldn't laugh. It's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit embarrassing. The other exciting thing that we did get last week is we can now have the Android apps if you're on the dev channel.
Oh yeah, they've turned that on as well. Did we not mention that last week? I can't remember. That's been turned on now. In fact, I think that was turned on at the same time as this searching happened for the Insiders. So it was a bit around Windows Subsystem Android, which didn't come as much of a surprise because it didn't even merit a release, did it?
No, they just switched it on somehow. Yeah. So I've got this original Surface Go. It's not supported for Windows 11, and but because it was on the Windows Insider program, it actually got effectively grandfathered in, didn't it? Even though there's ways around that anyway, even if you didn't. But anyway, I've got it installed. I had it installed on here, so I went to install it on this device, but of course it's not in the US. So I hopped over on one of those new flights to America, changed its region, installed the subsystem for Android, hopped back over here. In fact, I couldn't even install it then because it says your processor's not supported.
Oh.
So I thought, oh, well, never mind. And then I was going to leave it. And I thought, well, I don't. We'll leave it. So there is loads of different guides out there, and one of them is install it via command line. So I had to go doing that because I don't mind if I break this device, I'll just wipe it and reinstall Windows on it. So anyway, I tried it and it worked. So yeah, even though my processor is not supported, the laptop's not supported. Yeah, I've got Android running on here, got my Arlo cameras working on here, which is probably the one reason I was going to use it. And actually, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be a terrible experience. It's going to be really slow, but it's not at all. It's perfectly fine. It works just as well as it works on the Surface laptop too, which is supported.
It's almost as if those hardware requirements are almost entirely arbitrary.
Yeah, I thought perhaps it won't work at all because there was some kind of Intel emulation, Android emulation built in, but obviously not.
It's the Intel Bridge tech, isn't it? Which is I think the enabler, but I think that's been in chips for a while. So
yeah. So the only issue that I have with it really, which is maybe why Microsoft done it, is the subsystem. That initial boot up the subsystem. I just started this, and you can see it's whizzing away now. So, like I mentioned last week, you've got two options. You can have the subsystem start on demand, or you can have it on permanently. But it takes about 1 gig to 2 gig of RAM. So, on this one, I've left it on demand, and you can see it's still started up. So, it's not exactly quick. So, but once it's started up, the Android apps work as well as they do on your phone. There's no issues with that. So really, if you want the optimal performance, you've got to leave that subsystem switched on all the time. On a device like the Surface Go, it's not ideal, but yeah, it's working. And there's the Arlo app working on my Surface. So yeah, not Surface Go. And it's actually the reason why I wanted to do this specifically was because this is the kind of form factor that makes more sense for Android. You can run it as a full screen app. And it's touchscreen and it makes more sense. So it's a big tablet. So yeah, it does. That makes more sense than running it on a desktop machine. So yeah, it works. It works really well. I was surprised at how well it works on there, considering it's not supported. So
yeah, we've been racking our brains as to what the real point of this WSA stuff is, apart from for developers not using Google Play apps. And of course, I think you say that the likes of Arlo and other home automation stuff is actually really where it comes in its own, where there's apps on Android or iOS which simply there aren't web versions of, and there aren't Windows desktop versions of. So you can do all those things through your Windows 11 desktop, which is great. Yeah,
you got to wonder what's in it for Microsoft. I don't know if it would sell copies of Windows. I can see why the subsystem for Linux makes sense, but I'm not sure quite why the Android would make as much sense. Or maybe there wasn't a huge amount of extra work to do to now they've got these subsystems working. But yeah, I'm not sure what the big picture is for it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good developer tool. I guess it's just adding more convenience to Windows for users. But yeah, I guess I can see what you mean there. I mean, there is, of course, obviously one must consider the various fiefdoms inside of Microsoft for wanting to do different things. So perhaps this is a sop to developers, whereas other bits of Microsoft may not like this at all.
Yeah, it's a good point that. I think Gary made last week, though. I'd be interested to see if they come up with Windows subsystem for Windows, which I think sandboxes. I suppose that's what sandbox is, kind of.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
But then it would be a good way of isolating apps. So it would run in its own isolated environment, a bit like how Windows 10X was designed, and eventually over time they could place more elements of the OS into that to make it more containerized and a more modular version of Windows. So maybe they can eventually get to this modular version of Windows which they've been trying for 20 years.
Yes, yeah, just Windows being the hypervisor.
Yeah. I guess that's almost where they wanted to get with, like, Windows 10X was that kind of environment, but it's the compatibility is always an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think they've gone more pragmatic with compatibility now. And talking about compatibility, you see that you can get Firefox in the Microsoft Store now.
You can indeed, and Edge too. Although Edge doesn't look like it's got many stars in the store that I saw in.
Yeah, which is fun. I don't know why you didn't. Isn't Edge forced on every Windows 10 and then Windows? Well, it's already on 11, but isn't the new Edge forced on Windows 10 anyway?
It is indeed rammed down your throat.
Although I have to admit, from a day job point of view, it's made life a lot simpler, because we used to have old Microsoft Edge. We have some apps, some old things that need Internet Explorer. Then we've got people that want Chrome, and some apps, so there's all this, people were having multiple browsers with on the same system, and it's quite a lot to manage. Whereas now, virtually everybody either uses Chrome or New Edge, and it doesn't really make much difference which of those that they use. And the New Edge rollout was actually really easy because it was just part of the quarterly updates or this half-yearly updates, so it wasn't really a much of an effort to roll it out. So it was a lot easier than in the past when IE upgrading versions of IE or whatever that we've had to do in the past. So
yeah, sure. Of course, the other thing to consider with New Edge is if you have got those weird old corporate apps that must use IE, then you've got the IE mode.
Yeah. We've had way less issues with browser compatibility since Microsoft have rolled out the new version of Edge. So it's actually been much better from that point of view.
Excellent.
I remember actually one nice update. Maybe this is one for your stories one day. Do you remember when Microsoft released an update for Internet Explorer? I don't know, it might have been 10 or something like that changed everybody's English language into Spanish?
Yes, I do.
I don't think you were on the show at that time, but we definitely did the podcast then. But yeah, I had this. Yeah, so like we have Windows Update Service and a test group, and our test group all turned Spanish. So I'm glad we have a test group and didn't just push out to everybody. Yeah, those are it. So you see, quality control updates causing problems. That was still a thing a fair while ago.
That's true. That's certainly true. And of course, at least with Edge, unlike IE, it's now out of the OS as well, isn't it? So
yeah,
they can break it separately.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I had I used the Canary, and I actually had a rare issue with the Canary a few weeks ago. When if you went to the URL bar and did copy, it would crash the browser.
I must admit, I mean, I've stopped using the Canary because I did have a few similar kinds of issues a while ago where the browser would just go boop and disappear. I couldn't work out what I'd done to it. So, but yeah, as you know, that's the curse of using the Canary. Some things can go wrong.
Yeah, and I probably should switch back from using Canary. The reason I used Canary at first because it had all the nice new features, but as over time the features that were interesting have rolled out to the main branches now anyway. So there's less and less for them to do as it becomes more mature. So I think you probably I would be okay to go back to one of the more stable builds. But like I said, I don't have a huge amount of issues with it. And on my Surface, I've got two. I've got the standard one and the Canary one. I tend to use the Canary one most of the time anyway. Obviously with the sidebar navigation as well, I've got completely used to that. I know some people don't like that, but I do.
Cool.
Actually, so I think that was all the news we had for this week.
I guess there was one last thing. I don't know if you noticed the Raspberry Pi.
Oh yes, I've mentioned about that.
They've finally updated the Raspberry Pi OS because it's based on the Debian Linux distribution, which went to Bullseye. The version they call Bullseye. They love their Toy Story.
I thought it was 1970s and 80s game shows.
Yes, indeed. They were secret aficionado of British game. Bullseye, yes, there'll be 3, 2, 1, and doesn't fit, all those things. No, it's Toy Story. So that got updated in August, and it's just been rolled out for the Raspberry Pi OS. Looks, I mean, I did actually manage to do an in-place upgrade, and it did work, but they don't support it. So best bet is to basically blast it onto a fresh SD card. And yeah, it works really well. I had no problems with it. I think you may have some problems if you're running on 2 gigs or less, because of some of the changes that have been made to the graphics. To I think is it GTK3 it's using now.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the upshot of that is that's a compositing window manufactured in there called Mutter, which works well if you're on 2 gigs and above. And to be honest, I'd suggest perhaps 4 gigs might be better. But it gives them things like, nice roundy windows and things and rounded tooltips without having to do bodges in the background. The problem is if you try and run it on a lower spec Raspberry Pi with 1 gig, then all those nice effects go away. You get squared stuff. But I mean, aside from that, I mean, there weren't many visual changes. Tabs have changed on dialogues, but on the whole, it all looked the same. Some quite pleasing window animations now. Felt more modern, I'd say, using it. But yeah, a handy upgrade and free. Hooray!
Yeah, I haven't upgraded my machine yet. I've got a Raspberry Pi 4 that's got my temperature control LED display as well. So with just a Python script, so I guess I probably could just do a clean install and just copy the Python script.
Massive overkill. Get yourself Pi 0. That's huge overkill.
It is, yeah, it definitely is. The reason why it's doing that is because that's the one I have. I have got a Pi 3 as well, actually, that runs it as well. So I could also use the Pi 3 as well. So I'm not sure on that. And then the 400 runs Windows 11, so I keep in that with Windows 11.
Oh, well, I've now pulled Windows 11 for my 400, so it's now purely running the. Actually, no, I do run Ubuntu on the 400 actually, but I did put on the new Raspberry Pi OS just to see how it all worked. So it's a very pleasing machine. Although looking at the price, I have to say, if you're on a fully loaded Pi 400, you're looking at about best part of £90, £100 perhaps. And that Surface laptop SE 229, and it's got a screen, so just say it's getting quite close. Yeah,
I know what you mean. There was one other thing as well, which we'll perhaps talk to Gary about next week. Visual Studio 2022 launched this week. Oh, yeah. So I installed that. It looks very nice actually, but I haven't. I actually would wonder whether I always have this thing with Visual Studio. Does it upgrade your projects or not? And in this case, I found it didn't. So
I'm surprised actually. That is surprising because normally in recent years they've been pretty good actually. I know there was a whole jarring thing a few years back where it didn't at all, but recently I've had no real issues except when I've had dependencies which haven't been compatible with newer versions. That's caused me some problems.
Yeah, well, this just I had an existing project and I opened it and it didn't do anything. It just opened and it was fine. In the past, when you upgraded versions of Visual Studio, it would say, "Do you want to upgrade this?" And then you wouldn't be able to open it in the old one anymore. But that doesn't seem to be the case with this. But Gary will provide more details. I did install the Python on it as well because I've been quite enjoying playing with Python. So I thought, I'll stick Python on there.
Do you remember the jarring Visual Basic 6 to Visual Basic .NET upgrade?
Oh, yes, I do.
When nothing worked.
Yeah, nothing. Literally nothing. Oh, those were the days. I still have a very fond place in my heart for Visual Studio 6, Visual InterDev.
Yeah.
I did my MCSD on Visual InterDev.
Oh, you see, mine was in Visual Basic. I think it might have been Visual Basic 4 for my MCSD, I think. Well,
I did the first one. It was .NET, so it would have been.
Trying to think back now.
Yeah.
Goodness me. I know my MCSD was Windows NT 4.
Oh, the good old days. The great version of it. We talked about this before. The almost peak Windows NT. I think we decided Windows 2000 was peak, didn't we, last week?
Yeah, it was around there. Although really, let's face it, it was NT 351. That was the peak. It ran 12 megs. Come on now. I mean,
Yeah, no, but as we mentioned last week, it wasn't very good on laptops.
No, don't close the lid. Yeah. Oh, no, that's great. That's really good. Yeah, yes, yeah. But yeah, crikey, flashing back to that one there.
And my funny is my son's now talking about doing MCSEs and things like that. And he was born just as I was finishing off my MCSD.
Do you reckon it would be like the driving test now, where you think, oh yeah, I did that when I was a kid. Oh, that's fantastic. And then you see the things that they have to do, and I think, oh, I probably wouldn't pass that now, actually. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I would like to attempt it again now. I think I remember the one that I found was difficult was the solution architecture exam, because it wasn't tied to a particular technology. It was all Microsoft technology, so it encompassed a lot of different topics. Yeah,
was yours still? I don't know if they still do kind of effectively jumped up multiple choice ones, or are they cleverer now? I presume they're a lot cleverer now than that.
The solution architecture wasn't multiple choice. It had drag and drop of flows and things like that. Yeah. That was why it was hard.
Oh well, tech moves all the time.
It does, yeah, it definitely does, yeah. And that's the great thing about it, that it never gets boring. And that's when I was talking to my sons about careers and things. So one thing with IT is you don't get bored, because things change all the time, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I wonder if there's scope in the new Microsoft exams they're saying, how would you answer this? So, well, I wouldn't use Microsoft tools for starters.
Yeah.
Well.
No, definitely not. Well, I think that's just about everything we've got for this week then. So where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Richard_Speed.
Excellent. And we'll be looking for your you'll be getting one of those Surface SEs to test, really, I'm sure.
I won't. I've spent that money on an Xbox Series S.
Oh yes, I forgot to ask you about this. Yeah, so have you got it now?
Yeah, it's great.
Have you got Forza Horizon 5 on there?
Yep. Playing it today. It's really, I have to say, I like Forza Horizon 4, so I'm kind of in the target market. And Forza Horizon 5 is, it's a stunning looking game, and it's just great fun, because I don't like really complex driving simulations, and it can be as complex as you want it to be, and I just want to get in the car and just drive around and look at stuff, and it's just lovely open world, and it's brilliant. It really is incredibly good. I think the main thing I've noticed between that and 4 is there's more flora and fauna in this one. So there's like flamingos and things that fly around and stuff. But it just looks amazing. It just looks amazing, and they've done a great job. And you look at the Series S, you think, how could the little tiny box that small be doing all of this? The other thing we're doing with it as well is playing. I play a lot of Sea of Thieves with friends online. Mm. And the other thing is you can plug a keyboard and mouse into it, and it all just simply works. I'm used to playing first person type games with a mouse and keyboard. Just works. It's fine. So yeah, I'm grudgingly quite pleased with it, actually. It's worked really well. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh well, we just got to get Gary to get one now. Yeah. Well, yeah. So we'll do some Forza with our Meta headsets at some point. Yes, and I've got my headset here, so that's my. I was going to see how much has changed in Windows Mixed Reality and Windows 11, and I think pretty much to say that nothing. It's just the same version. It's almost as if they don't really care. Yeah, exactly. It's all part of the metaverse anyway. Right, well, we will go there. So we'll see you next week. We'll have Gary back as well, and we'll see you then. Cheerio.